Got it. Good morning, everyone. It's Monday. I hope you're having a great Monday. Today, we're talking about leading through change and specifically the do's and don'ts of getting employee buy-in. So leading through change is something that I work on every week with my clients. It's a constant. The subject of change is a constant in my world. And leading through change is not easy by any means. What we know is that about 70% of change efforts fail. That's a lot of change that we try to lead that doesn't come to fruition. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Say hi if you're joining me. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I can see the comments, so please let me know if you're joining me, and let's get this thing rolling. So my name's Melissa. I'm an executive coach and a management consultant. And what I do every day, what that means in practice is I'm working with leaders and I'm working with their teams. I'm helping the leaders become more influential, have the skills that allow them to get that employee buy-in so that they no longer are the cheerleaders or having to drag anyone to do the work or feel like they have to force people. They're learning the skills that ignite that intrinsic motivation in their employees so they can partner together and do really great work. Kelsey Ann is joining me. And Kelsey Ann, what do you want to share with us about you? And maybe about your thoughts on leading through change. And for those of you joining, please drop in the comments your thoughts on leading through change.
So my name is Kelsey Ann, and I am your director of marketing. Leading through change. Change is always, right? There's always changes that we're going through. So it's, little changes and big changes. And I think it's very important to and I know I believe we're going to be talking about it, but to recognize from an employee perspective how change is usually just kind of dropped on us. There's never participation, there's never explanation sometimes. And I say that in my previous employment, because we do that here. You're very transparent of we need to make this change or A, B, and C, and then 1, 2, 3. Like we look at everything, we look at the changes that we need to make, but it's not siloed. Like you have us participate in those changes where previously changes are just rolled out and it's like, well, suck it up and proceed.
And I'm going to use some of the stuff on my desk here just to kind of demonstrate what you're talking about. And often what happens is we have, here are my tools, but often we'll have, if you can imagine, this is a room with people. We have, the people that are creating the strategy, figuring out the change, figuring out why the change needs to happen, when it's going to be rolled out, and plans for change. And then you have the people over here that are responsible for implementing the change, or at least the responsibility is given to them. And those two things happen in different rooms. So when you said siloed, that's what it prompted for me, Kelsey Ann, is yes, here's where we're doing the thinking, here's where we're doing the doing, and the missing link is people. And ideally, there's an overlap like this, that the people who are doing the implementing, they are part of the discussion, maybe not all of the discussion, but they are part of the process. So that's how we close the gap between strategy and implementation. And I'm going to give you some, in the tips that I'm going to give you today, you're going to get some ideas, some little nuggets. Obviously, there's, just so much I can give you in 20 minutes, but I'm going to show you how to create this like little overlap here so that you can close that gap for yourself. Another really interesting statistics that I heard is that 9 out of 10 organizations do not meet their strategic goals. All right. So the strategy and the implementation are just not lining up. And I want
9
you
out
to
of
be
10.
part of that 1 in 10 that does make it happen. How does that sound to everyone?
Sounds
You
good
in?
to me. Yeah, 1 in 10. Wow. That's a
1 in 10 get it done.
startling fact.
Yeah. So number one, so let's go. I mean, I have 3 things lined up for you, and we're going to go over the, don't do, and then the do instead.
Okay.
All right. Because I want you to recognize the traps that you might be falling into. And we're all guilty of it. So that doesn't speak to who you are as a leader, but there is a better way. So I'm going to show you how to flip. So first, don't keep your people in the dark, because emotions are contagious. And when you're in the background and you're working on these big plans and you're thinking about it, you're giving everyone clues that something's happening. And if they catch a whiff of something's happening, think about the deer in the field, the first one's head goes, whoop, and then all of the other ones' heads go up and start looking for the danger. And the thing is because we're not communicating, we're keeping them in the dark, we're not giving them any meaning to what's happening. Therefore, they need to put on their assumptions. Okay, miscommunication already happening. We haven't even done anything yet, but we're already filling in the blanks. We're already imposing all of our assumptions or biases or beliefs or fears, everything on something we do not know, but we've had clues that something's happening. And we found the clues in the things that you said or didn't say, little twitches, hesitations, body language, just you acting weird, you being pulled away in different types of meetings. There's clues. Okay. So I know you think you're being like super sneaky. They know something's up, right? Have you experienced that, Kelsey Ann, as I'm talking about it? You know something's up. You don't know what.
Yeah.
So what does that feel like in terms of the employee living that? I've most of my career I've been on the other side of doing the planning. So I've always been privy to the information.
It's very unsettling because you don't know. It's like a great big, like I kind of think of like Super Mario Brothers, like a great big question mark of, okay, are they thinking about, losing jobs here? Is it, they're going to flip departments? Like what are these changes? And then I know I'm not the only employee that tells themselves stories based on those assumptions, right? So and the filling of those gaps, right? Of we know something's changing, we know things are different, and here we are here, and we're going to fill in that gap, probably with untrue information that we convince ourselves is probably correct, unfortunately. And that's just it's not an intentional thing, but we're just trying to, connect those dots of, okay, something's happening. What could it be?
Yeah. And so emotions will come up. And we talk about the emotions of change a lot inside the Executive Edge program. And we don't just talk about them, but we learn how to navigate through them. So when the frustration comes up, the fear, the judgments, all of those assumptions that are creating resistance, how do you work with that? Because it's not by ignoring or suppressing that you're going to get through it. You actually need to move through it with your people. So one of the ways, don't keep them in the dark. Instead, let people in on the change. Give them meaning to why this change is happening. And be specific as to what has the potential to change and what will stay the same. When people know what is staying the same, that creates a foundation. Because when you say change, oh my God, what's changing? Is it everything? Forever? And so that can really hit us hard, hit our optimism really hard. So if you can give some kind of a foundation of here are the things that aren't changing. Okay, now we can better deal with it because we know it's this piece, not all the pieces. How does that sound, Kelsey Ann? Anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I think just recognizing too that change is usually uncomfortable, for yourself, but also your employee, right? And people have a hard time with change. So recognizing those emotions in yourself as well as in your employee, right? And that they could be in conflict. They're not necessarily in sync. I think that that's extremely important.
So don't keep them in the dark, let them in on the change and navigate through it together as partners. Second, and I think this speaks to the last sentence that I just spoke, which is don't let change happen to them. The thing is we feel when change is happening and it's happening top down, we feel like it's happening to us and we don't have a say. It takes away all of our autonomy, authority. We feel like victims to this change. So it really doesn't matter how well thought out the change is, how beneficial it is, and even that it's to their benefit. They still feel like a victim. So instead, give people a sense of agency. So don't let it happen to them. Make change happen with them. And there are different ways that you can put people at the center of the strategy, that you can engage them. You can invite them to participate in some way. And I know as you start to think about this, if you haven't considered it yet, it might feel impossible. How can I possibly make them part of this change process? In what way? So that can be a little bit challenging, is finding the way to make them part of the process. And it's different, if you have a 10 people team or 100 people on the ground. That engagement and that making them part of the change is going to look differently. But think of providing a very clear end goal, what the change is supposed to do for us, and engage them in the planning, how we're going to get there. The more autonomy you can give, the more they can feel in control of themselves and be in the driver's seat, the more they're going to be taking responsibility here. If they are part of the change, that means they're involved in the change. They have a commitment. They have an emotional commitment to making this change happen now. So it's not them running away, but them working towards making it happen. All right, I feel like I'm talking in circles. Have I made my point?
You've made your point. Yeah. It's a tough one. It feels a lot better to be included in it too, because a lot of the times, like you said, the change is coming top down, but they're usually not the ones doing the things, right? They're just, they don't necessarily understand what happens on the floor, but the employees do. So to allow them the autonomy to figure out the how, I think that's where you get more of their buy-in.
Yeah. So now I'm going to add a little piece for middle managers, the ones who aren't necessarily involved in the strategic planning, but it is coming downhill and now you're selling it, right? And that's what we do as leaders. We're selling ideas, we're selling tasks, we're selling projects, we're selling a whole bunch of work. So we are in some ways salespeople. And it's hard to sell something that you yourself may not believe in. You might have not been involved. All right. And then you like, well, I have no agency here. So how can I give agency to my people? And there are creative ways of approaching that. And what I would invite you to consider is there's always things that are in our control. So no matter how small those things are, if you can reach those things and bring them to the table and help people see that they're in control of something. And it can be down to we have control over how we show up and how we help each other and how we want, like who we are in this mess. So even if we don't have control over the mess or the way that things are rolling out, we can still choose who we are, how we choose to show up for each other, how we choose to show up for ourselves, how we want to navigate the day-to-day within this. So that having those kinds of discussions, facilitating those conversations is going to help give some agency even when it feels like there's none. All right. Well, I'm happy I kind of snuck that one in, but it was what you shared, something that you shared, Kelsey Ann, like brought it to my mind of, and I work with people, like I work with business owners, I work with executives, I work with higher management. I also work with middle management and frontline management. So I kind of see, I see all of the degrees of authority and autonomy here. I know it's not always easy. So strategizing based on the position that you're in and the level of authority you have is important to take into consideration. So finally, the final number 3 is don't treat change as a one-time event. Okay. So sometimes we say, this is the change that's happening. Here's the date where things are flipping over. And then after that date, the change will have happened. So it's a one and done. And that just really is not how change happens. So change happens in phases. And there is a preparation phase, there is a implementation phase, and then there is a supporting beyond the implementation phase, right? So if you just wait for the system to be implementing and you stop the support, what happens?
Usually it doesn't get implemented the way that you're expecting it to, because there's no support, there's no framework for those employees to implement that change.
Yeah, exactly. I want to show you a little visual here. I don't know if it's gonna. So we work with something in the Executive Edge program that's called the Change Map.
It's a little blurry, Melissa. Yeah.
So let's
It says
just wait
reflect, engage, and activate. Yeah, it's still blurry.
All right. Well, you get a sense of there is a specific model that we use to lead through change. And it talks about these phases of change and how it's a cyclical process. So it's not just do A, do B, and do C. It's you're going to cycle through reflection, engagement, activation. Reflect, engage, activate as you're moving through these 3 phases. So you're going to move through it before, during, and after. And as long as you keep moving in this cyclical process, you're moving things forward. However, as you're moving through the steps, there are emotions that arise. And those emotions can be a barrier if you don't deal with them. Those emotions can be things like fear, frustration, judgment, in many nuances of these emotions, right? And they can be a combination of those emotions. They feed the resistance and even the backsliding into the old habits. But you can work with these emotions and transform them to the emotions that actually move us forward, things like courage and excitement and curiosity, right? As I'm speaking them, you can almost, in any way, this is how I feel them, there is a moving forward quality, there is a transformation quality. Whereas fear, judgment, and frustration keeps us kind of where we're at. And if we're not moving through it, we're gonna get stuck.
Mhm.
So plan for these phases. Quick question to you, Kelsey Ann. And it's more of like a reflection, not even like a right answer kind of question, but where do you think we fall short when you think of like preparation, implementation, or support after? Where do you think we fall short the most when we're moving through change? And this is a very general kind of question.
Um, I would say like implementation slash support, because I feel most employees aren't involved in the implementation and actually figuring out those processes, and the ones that are doing the work. And they're the ones that are going to have those big, strong emotions in trying to do something that's been imposed on them.
So maybe the implementers aren't involved enough in the planning phase.
Yes, and who they're implementing to.
Yeah.
Right. So the employees that are being told of this change, right? They've likely either been given a process or told to figure it out. Right? Or, how many times figure it out? I don't know, figure it out. And then you try to figure it out and then it's wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So like
here's the thing, we're still moving through that cyclical process. So we need to be able to like figure it out, engage, activate, do the thing, fail. And we are going to fail we
Right.
fail forward. That's part of change.
Yeah.
And then it's about reflecting. So being able to capture those lessons and move them forward. But are you doing this solo or are you doing it as a group? Do we have a place and time to move through this beyond and make sure that people are supported? And as we're doing something new, it doesn't work. The planning does its job as best as it can do, but there is a lot of planning and readjusting that needs to happen in the implementation and beyond. So if you're not paying attention, then we're coming up against bugs and glitches and things that sounded good in theory, but in practice is just not working.
Exactly.
So that's that beyond support that helps us adjust and make sure that we are doing it successfully together in alignment. All right. I feel really, really, really like attached to this. So if you are going through changes, if you would like to get access to this change map and you would like to get some customized strategy and know how to move through these emotions of change as they come up. This is something that I do inside my program, the Executive Edge. It's a big component of the program. I would say 9 out of 10 participants are leading through change. And if they're not leading through change, they're leading themselves through change. So really 100% of people that come through my program, it's really important to learn this. It is also really good complement for people who have change management training already. It takes it to the next level. And the people who've had change management training, who've taken the Executive Edge, has told me such that it really, all the things that they were struggling with, it gave them those answers that they didn't have yet. So we have currently opened 6 spots for the next cohort. We are kicking off in April. There are 4 spots gone and 2 of them pending. So that means I've got interest, but they're not secured yet. So we still have 2 spots up for grabs, and we're closing the doors on Wednesday. So if you think this is something that you might enjoy, what you need to do to get your foot in the door is to book a consultation with me. Consultation doesn't mean you're in, it means we're going to chat to see if the program is something that would be a good fit for you. So Kelsey-Ann, are you dropping the link there so
Yes.
people can, yeah. And I think there's space left in my calendar for Wednesday. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kelsey-Ann.
Yeah, no.
And if Wednesday does not work for you and you'd like a different time slot, just send me a DM and we will make that happen. We will find you something that works, but you need to get booked in my calendar before Wednesday if you want in. All right, I see that it's right there. Book your call. The link is there. There's information on that page about the program. And any other questions that you have, I'll be able to go over those things with you on the call, as well as exploring, what your needs are, what you would be wanting to get from the program, your goals, the situation that you're in. These are all things that we take into consideration. I'll make specific recommendations on those things. And then if it feels like a fit for both of us, then we can decide to go ahead. Anything else, Kelsey-Ann, that I should add for people? There's lots of details I could talk about. It's a blended program. So that's really something that's important to me. And it's all live learning. So it's not a do it yourself at your own pace online program. No, you get me, you get full access to me. So you're going to get one-on-one coaching. There's group training and coaching that happens. That's all live. You get a direct line to me. So I set you up on something that's called Voxer. And so that is your direct line to me at all times. And you get assessments. I was like, what's the thing that I'm missing? The thing we kick off with, which is a validated assessment. So we actually measure your competencies as a leader. And so you get a starting point. We're able to identify what's important for you to work on. So you're not going to be doing all the things. We're going to be really, really narrowing your road to fine tune and select what is going to be important for you based on your goals and where you're at. And then we remeasure you at the end of the 8-week program so that you can see your before and after. And you can see the way that you invested in yourself. You're seeing a return on investment. You're seeing it in the numbers as well as the experiential part of it. Usually by week 2, the experiential part is already starting to show up. Week 2, people are showing up with wins. I did this thing. I tried this. The employee reacted that way. My employees are saying this. I'm getting more buy-in. We finally got that done. A message that I was trying to get through to my team or to my boss, all of a sudden they're listening to me. So we're seeing breakthroughs as of week 2. So this program is for anyone who is in a leadership capacity that is wanting to build their skills, that wants to engage their employees, want to improve their communication to be able to communicate directly while still being empathetic, and who want to do good work, who want to feel good and have a positive impact on the employee culture. So if that sounds like it's for you, book your call now. You have until Wednesday. But like I said, first come, first serve. There's only so many spots and there's only one of me. So book yourself in and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, everyone. Have a beautiful week.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.